Thanks so much for tuning into Applegate's EDGEcast, powered by Exit Zero Communications. So today we want to turn on your thinking about ways to use events to maximize profit in your personal or business lives. The hope is for those of you who decide to invest your time in Exit Zero moving forward is that you'll use what you've learned to create your own first or next business success or personal story. And in this way, you too can gain it forward. So I do have a couple of rules for the show. Basically, it's a conversation among friends. And today, my friends are you, the viewers and listeners. There'll be a minimum of editing, and my pro friends and my pro video friends freak out about that. But the bottom line is I'm here to just share information and what I've learned along the way, producing events and projects and programs over the years. So the bottom line is just to, again, to share that information. It doesn't have to be pretty in my book. All topics will be explored through my personal success lens or business process called Applegate's Edge. And in that we will energize your vision and intentionally design profitable strategies that will grow and elevate your business or personal lives, depending on whatever your goals are. All recent episodes of the show can be found at businesseventpro.com on my new website. So I'm thrilled about. Thank you, Deborah Sweet and Sweet Marketing for that. And also older episodes will be available on YouTube at Applegate's Edge. So please subscribe. Thanks so much in advance for those who do. So you know that I've been consulting with businesses of all kinds over the years and have literally served hundreds and interviewed thousands of people. I often use events as strategies for completing a bigger communication or business problem. I've created projects and programs from scratch, meaning soup to nuts. I've consulted with clients to help make their projects better. And now I'm also teaching the art and science of profitable event management virtually. And that students will learn tools and strategies for making events fun, effective, on target, and within budget. My goal is not to only utilize tools, but also to teach proven emerging techniques for creating events that grow membership, might increase sales, provide product and education, celebrate employees or members, or maybe be profitable in some other way. What are your goals? Are you thinking about virtual? Let's talk. Because we can expose your event to more people, it might be even more profitable for you. So in the words of William Wordsworth, to begin, begin. And in my words, let's get the learning started. So today, I'm not joined by a guest, but do want to talk about, in fact, I had a whole script and a planned content today about, the ABCs of event planning. But in the last week, I have talked to a number of people, and it seems like the buzz is all about virtual or in person, virtual or in person. So again, today I want to talk about the big topic that's on everybody's mind in planning their first or next event. And that is it going to be online or in person? Or as I call it, the 80-20 effect. So as a reminder, when I talk about profit, it's not just about money, right? It can be about membership. It can be about increased sales. It can be about product awareness. It can be about employee buy-in or stockholder buy-in, right? So just want to keep that in mind as we chat moving forward. So we talk about the 80-20 effect. So basically, when it comes to virtual or in person, 80% of the event is the same, no matter how it's held or how it's presented. When you think about doing an in-person or virtual event, and these next 15 or 20 points are going to be about that. It's all about you can do it live or in person, or excuse me, live or virtually. And then later we'll talk about the benefits of virtual. So first, I always talk about strategic intention matters. So whenever thinking about an event, first and foremost, is it the correct strategy to accomplish your goals? Are you going to get to the right audience? Are you going to, is it the message that you share? Is the event the best way to get that message across? Because it is not always the case. Events are expensive. They're time consuming. They're stressful. they're costly if not done well or correctly. So, there's a lot of question about just, is an event the right solution for your business or goal or solving a particular problem? So then you got to think about, when will it be? The hardest part for me when planning a new event is figuring out the date, knowing or, comparing it to what else is going on out in the marketplace. What are you going to be competing with? What day of the week is it going to be? Where will it be? That's important too, because that impacts travel plans potentially, even if it's a local event. If it's where I live, one of the biggest venues is 30 minutes away from where I live. So you have to, attendees have to build that time into their plan. And that 30 minutes of driving one way might cost you an event attendee because they just couldn't make it. They couldn't afford the time. What time of day will it occur? Always a tough one. But think about, again, who is your audience? You're always wanting to serve your audience or prospective audience. So for example, a business audience is probably going to be at, they're going to be starting their day early. So breakfast might work, a lunch might work, just after work might work. But 8 o'clock at night, probably not going to be the case, because they're going to be unplugging from their day and getting back to their life and into their normal routine. So again, time of day is really important as it relates to the type of audience that you're serving. How will you reach your prospective audience? Again, it's sort of the same in virtual and in person. Obviously, if you're an association and you're reaching, you're doing an event for members, to me, that's the easiest kind of event there is, because there's already a certain amount of buy-in from your potential attendees, right? And there's probably a defined or a limited number of people who might be interested in your message. But if it's a community event and you are speaking to everyone, well, that's a completely different kind of outreach, right? And way of reaching them. And also time of day. If it's a community event, maybe the weekend is the best time for them to have access to your project. Or again, just after work, so that people can stop at the event on their way home and then grab food or grab the kids and get home to get back to their lives. But again, how will you reach your prospects or your attendees? Is it going to be through direct mail? Is it through marketing? Is it, how do you intend to reach them? It's the same, whether it's online or virtual. Do you need to send something to prospects or attendees in advance in order to have them have a more successful experience at your event? Maybe it's a working meeting. And so folks often they need to have the agenda either way, no matter what, so that they can plan ahead for the things that they're interested in. Now, some event planners don't like to share agendas in advance, especially in the virtual world, because then people can say, oh, I'd like to go to this, or I'd like to go to that. And then there's not as much engagement throughout the entire event as we planners and clients would like, right? So keynote or other speakers, super important, and plays into your timing, right? In terms of the schedule about when the event will be or what day part it might be. If you're having a keynote fly in, well, that might impact, in order to keep costs down, you might want to have them fly in that day and possibly even fly out that night or early the next morning. Well, then that means your event needs to be a lunch or an evening event, obviously. So your speaker can arrive, get to your event, do the event, and get back to their flight. Now, that's always dicey doing that kind of a strategy or that kind of a schedule, because if something happens and your speaker can't get in that day, then your event is hosed potentially. So I always try to make sure that the speaker is in the night before and, had a good meal, had a good sleep, and is ready to roll with us the next day if possible. Sponsors, kind of the same thing, in a way. Sponsors are as important as attendees, absolutely, in terms of the commitment that you make to them and the deliverable that you provide. In my world, I've created community events literally from the idea. Well, not even from an idea. I remember the Museum of Art once said, "Hey, Jane, we think it'd be cool to do or we need to do an event to grow outreach to people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. What do you think?" And we put together an event from that. And it was all sponsor driven. The whole thing was sponsor driven. We couldn't have done it without sponsors. And so you not only have to then write your plan, but then you have to figure out what are the expectations of the sponsors at the event. Do they need a table? Do they need a booth? Do they need space? Do they, if they're at my art events, do they want to have their team come out and do a sponsored space where they're creating their own art, whatever the case may be. But it's super important to whatever expectations that you set for your sponsors in advance of the event, that you deliver, because sponsors are your best friends when it comes to doing the event the next year and the next year and the next year. So in-person versus virtual, are there breakouts? So for those of you who haven't attended a conference, a breakout is a concept where you go into, typically you'll go into like the main venue or the main room. You'll go into registration, you'll check in, you'll be greeted, that you'll start your event experience at that point when you're boots on the ground at the venue. And then you'll go into the main room where the bulk of the event happens. And that's where, you know, the group discussions, usually the meals, the fire up sessions, those kinds of things where the whole group comes together and creates that energy and that momentum for the overall event. Then the breakouts are often things that happen outside of the main sessions. So for example, you might have a main session from 9 to 11, and then you have breakouts from 11 to 12, and your sponsors may host breakouts, or your speakers may host breakouts, or your own staff may host the breakouts. But the bottom line is to create a variety of, each topic addresses, each breakout addresses a topic that is important to the audience at your event. So for example, if you are an association and you have your annual meeting is what you're hosting, and you have your association members leadership from all over the country coming, well, then obviously that's a learning experience for them. And each of the breakouts might be something like how to raise money for your club, how to grow membership, how to hold events, those kinds of things. So again, each of those would be considered a breakout. And then typically attendees can choose what is the most important topic for them to learn before leaving the overall event. Are there meals? Every big event has meals. They are typically the #1 bane of every, the bane of every existence of every event planner that there is. Why? Because it's hard to figure out meals count, and they're expensive. You pay for those. And so, for example, I interviewed someone recently where, again, it was an association situation, and the management of the attendees that were there because their bosses said they had to be there. They had to be accredited for a particular thing to keep their their knowledge base up, or whatever the case may be. And in this case, it's a group of men. Well, when they registered, they said we'll be at every meal every day. Well, then when it comes to the event, they're often not there, especially like the first meal of the day, whether it's, like the group, just juice and coffee and some pastries. Well, you have to turn an account for that. And again, you have to pay for it. And if it's not eaten, then it just goes to waste. And no event planner likes to have waste, because every dollar is important. If you're not going to use it toward food, you can use it toward marketing, or you can use it toward security, or you can use it toward, an enhanced swag bag, or better quality print products that you can distribute after your event. But again, meals, super important. They provide not only fuel, right, to exist, but they provide opportunities for people to sit elbow to elbow in a person, for that really important networking piece that we all miss at our in-person events now. Gosh, I so miss that. I so miss networking. I currently am in a business boot camp right now, where the first night, it's a 10-week program. The first night we met in person, and we had, it was a little uncomfortable because you don't know anybody yet. You're trying to introduce yourself and become part of the group. And then for 8 weeks, it's virtual. And then the last week, it'll be in person again. And I like the virtual because I can be home and I can get to the meeting at the last second. It doesn't require that extra half hour of transportation, et cetera. But at the same time, we all have to wait patiently to raise our hands. And we don't really know when have you used too much of your own time versus the, other people's time, because there's other people in the room and they all have questions because we're all in training together, right? So anyway, I kind of went off a bit of a tangent there, but it all comes back to why I kind of went off on that. It's about the meals and making sure that people are fed, they're fueled, they have the opportunity to connect with, to sit down and connect with other folks. So that's the networking piece. And whatnot. Plus you can tie in themes with your food and drink and things like that. That's always fun if you want to take it to that level. So other things to think about in person versus virtual are going to be tech needs, right? There's always going to be tech needs, whether it's your computer for the PowerPoint for your speakers, to the sound system, to the lighting, to the video playback, to if there's any interactivity. I mean, now you can actually have interactive voting with people live in your audience. And so you just have to know what those things are and have those tools in place before you obviously before you roll. Virtual is a little bit more complicated. And again, we'll talk about that in a bit. But again, something else to think about, whether it's virtual or in person. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but, does the public need to know about the event? And if so, how will it be marketed? Obviously, social media is a huge avenue for us now, but as the education industry basically is booming through Zoom and whatnot, there's lots of things that are happening in the social media algorithms. And so, for example, even 3 months ago, you could actually do a speaker-driven, sell your tickets for a virtual event very easily through just doing some Facebook Lives and things like that. Well, the algorithms have changed. It's not that easy now. So, you have to figure that out. And there's a lot to figure out. Believe me, I'm working on it every day. How do people register for your event? Super important. It has to be easy. I had a conversation with a woman just yesterday about how they were, now this wasn't a business event, it was a baby shower, no, a wedding shower. But anyway, so the website, the invite sends you to a website to buy the gift, but then the gift, the registry sends you to different stores. And then you buy your product at different stores, but then you have to remember to go back to the registry to mark that you have bought that item, right? So the woman was just complaining it was not very user-friendly. And so she then contacted the bride to say, this is not very user-friendly. And they changed the way that the gift registration worked. So again, I'm not really a wedding planner. That's not my thing. I'm more on the business and not-for-profit and government sides of the puzzle. But I just thought that was a very interesting thing. So simple, but caused a concern. And then the bride did something about it because she got the feedback. Should attendees do something in advance to be prepared? And if so, how will you tell them, or what do you provide for them? So again, going back to an example of an association that I used to be involved in, it was about learning how to manage your organization or your local club better. And so I always wanted to go to the event knowing, again, what were the breakouts, what were the times that I could do learning based on what my education needs were. And then when could I make sure that I could connect with people that that maybe were new to me or that were old friends because I'd seen them from year to year or whatever. Now, in that case, there was nothing in advance to prepare for the association itself, but there might be. It might be, it might be a testing situation and you have to have some learning in advance. So you have to have some prep materials in advance, whether it's delivered to you through the mail or, online. And then will attendees leave with information? Same kind of thing. If so, what does that look like? How will it be produced? How will it be distributed at the event? Is it digital? Is it hard copy? Those kinds of things. So again, all of those things, I just highlighted 15 points that are the same for virtual and in-person events. So again, that 80% is roughly the same no matter how the event is delivered. The 20% is, or the virtual piece is the 20% that's different. And so when you think about virtual, it's much easier to get on a calendar, a date on a calendar. Yes, it is not, you still have other things that you're competing with, but you don't have to worry about, is the venue available? Is there going to be parking available that day? What's the weather going to be like? I live in central states, and so we might have anything from, heck, yesterday we had tornadoes to ice storms. We had a night of freezing a week ago. And that could impact, attendees coming, and especially if it's something that they really need to attend, as opposed to it'd be nice to attend kind of an event. A huge benefit from virtual on the virtual side is that the audience reach is in fact global. Huge, right? I talk about when I've moved from virtual, from just producing events and then now to teaching, for years, I have gone knocking on doors. Hey, not-for-profit, I'm here, I can help you guys. Let's work together. And that process is long. It's frustrating a lot of times. I don't get the hourly rate that my knowledge base would deserve perhaps sometimes. And, you can only serve so many people. So my thinking was in going with this, this virtual piece is that I really can help people all over the world at improving the quality of their events and their projects and their programs. It doesn't matter if I live in the same town. In fact, recently someone said, well, I didn't hire you to work on my project because you didn't live in Fort Wayne anymore. And I'm like, oh my gosh, have you not understood what's going on around you in the world? There weren't any events, so people can produce them from wherever. And we can serve to whomever, wherever they are. And that is the most exciting piece for me. I can serve more people, and hopefully they will produce, I will help provide confidence as well as sharing those tools and techniques for effective and profitable event management and production. And when, when my students are successful, then I'm successful, and we all chain it forward. And that's why I'm in this game. So other pieces of that 20% difference with virtual versus in person, travel costs, they're diminished. There aren't any travel costs with virtual, right? You walk into your office or your basement or your garage or wherever your studio is, right? Wherever your computer is at this point, or even your cell phone. Compared to, a $500 flight and 2 nights of hotel. A minimum, if you're doing an event on Saturday and Sunday, you typically have Friday night, Saturday night hotels. You're going to have food for travel. You might have taxi, not to mention the actual time out of your business day, which, if you're traveling, you're not billing typically, right? And so with the more affordable approach or access to the project or the event, I believe fully that greater attendance is an opportunity. Plus there's less push. And another piece about attendance is there's less pushback from family, right? Or friends or work or others who require your time. If you know that you're going to, you don't have to travel, but you do need that Thursday and Friday for learning, and the event might go through Saturday, then your employers are going to likely give you that time off. Because you're not going to come back dragging on Monday. You're not going to, you're going to be more effective with the learning, I think. At least I am more effective with online learning. It's crazy, the difference in my own learning by a virtual platform, because I am eyeball to eyeball with the presenter. I'm sitting, I'm focused, I'm direct, I'm engaged with whoever is speaking. I always have my camera on. Some don't. I mean, I spoke with my sister recently, and she's like, if I'm going to do if I have to go back and get continuing education units or CEUs for her teaching degree, if she is confident in that knowledge, she may not sit down and actually be engaged with it. She might, just listen. Where I learn better through using multiple senses, right? Hearing it, seeing it. I often will type or write it down, so I get 3 hits of the information for better, better traction and better remembering of the content that I've learned. So anyway, that all started with travel cost and less pushback from family. But bottom line is that with virtual, you do have the opportunity to access more people. And it also takes less time to fill the seats, right? Because people don't have to think about, oh gosh, that's so expensive. I don't know if I can pay for that. Or if I don't know if I can talk my boss into that. Or how will we get that billed through the small company that we have? Or, or my family, my husband won't allow me to pay the flight, that kind of thing, whatever the case may be. So again, virtual takes less time to fill the seats because there's less objections to attending. Again, time, travel, cost, pushback from family, etc. Right? Also with virtual, there is potentially, now I'm talking about, a community event versus like an internal event, like an association event or even a company event for their salespeople. But with virtual, the marketing runway is often shorter and therefore potentially a lot less expensive. Meaning the marketing runway being the distance between the time you start marketing to the time that your event happens, right? So, yeah, it's really interesting watching what is happening with traditional advertising avenues and the way people are marketing their events versus the social strategies and platforms. It's pretty interesting. And it's changing every day because every platform is, is a company trying to sell their product and engage users, et cetera. And so, like Meta and Facebook changing their algorithms. Well, that wasn't so helpful for us, but I guarantee you that they have created they've changed their algorithms so that they can find more information about us easier, or it's something to do with what advertisers will pay for. That's what the algorithms are about, is usually, SEO, search engine optimization, getting your company name to the top of the Google search list, right? I've worked in that industry for 4 or 5 years, and it is definitely a science, definitely. Virtual events can help in the effort toward a purpose-driven payday. So part of what I learned through the Sage Event Management mentorship is not only how to do events effectively virtually, but even how to do them at a much higher level than most people will. So, I mean, many of us have sat on a Zoom meeting where it's just a speaker speaking out to you and you're just sitting there taking the information, and it's just like, after a while, you can't take anymore because there's no interactivity and it's really boring, and I hate that. But when you do a virtual event well, then you can launch a business. And in my case, this division of Exit Zero, which is teaching event planning virtually, that is a piece of my purpose-driven payday, right? And that's part of what Sage helped provide that roadmap to figuring out how to do that. But bottom line, even though I didn't launch right away, it is so much easier you can launch much earlier, I should say, at speed. And the product or project is scalable, if you will, because you can bring more people into the message quicker, right? Once you find who cares about your message and where they are and how to find them, right? Because again, strategic intention matters. Is the event the right thing to do? Who are you reaching? How do you reach them? What do you want them to walk away with once you provided the event, the information, the program, whatever the case may be? Another cool thing about virtual that I love, I just talked about a boring delivery, right? Well, the chat is just worth so much, because a chat in for example, a Zoom meeting or, a Blackboard or a GoToMeeting or Google Meet, whatever it is, whatever the platform is. The chat is the actual attendees interacting with each other and with the host, right? So you can learn so much from that chat. You can literally read what they care about. You can learn what they need to know. You can have someone over your shoulder reading that and going, talking into my ear. They'll be, when I'm doing a live show, for example, hey, Jane, Mary, in room 6 is concerned about this or is asked about that. Well, at that point, if that question comes up in the chat, I need to address that to the audience, because that is a hole of information that I haven't addressed yet, right? So the chat is just awesome, whether it's one-to-one, meaning like you can actually chat independently depending on your platform, but that you're using. But I chat one-on-one with people that I like, oh gosh, I really like your thinking. Let's talk after the meeting. Here's my personal information. Or it might be like when I was in the Sage virtual event on virtual events, TV week 1. It was a huge event. They had 1,200 people. Well, the huge to me, small to them, but they had 1,200 people, and that required a number of breakout rooms for all the attendees, because of course there's Zoom limitations and not everyone can be in the same breakout or the same Zoom room at this point, although the platform is changing as well. But anyway, yeah, the Zoom room, or the example that I was given is that our room, we really were super active, right? And we really wanted to connect with one another. So we ended up starting to share our data in the chat. And then a woman grabbed it and then built a spreadsheet and then sent it out to our group. And from that group, I have now found a group that I meet with on Fridays that are experts in each of their fields. You hear me talking about them. There's a sponsorship person, there's a marketing and branding person, there's a magician, mental persuasion entertainer, and me, the event planner, right? So, I mean, it's so cool, the relationships that you can build just through the chat on a virtual event. And I always encourage you to chat, be active. That is the way that you will develop new relationships, and again, maintain that content within yourself that you've learned. Let's see, easier with virtual, it's also easier to attend breakouts because you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to move from breakout to breakout. So I mean, when I go to these events, they're usually funded by another organization. So I want to maximize, their investment. So I go to everything that I can possibly pack into the event, typically 2 or 3 day event. And I found that, when you're going from breakout to breakout, you're usually having to leave the room, and yeah, you want to stretch and get your blood flowing and, get your energy back up and whatnot, but you also have to move. And then you have to go into the new room and figure out where you're going to sit, and you're going to, are you the back of the room kind of person? Are you the front of the room kind of person, though, and then also as you're going from breakout to breakout, you're running into other people that you've been learning with or your friends. So that takes time. And then, oh, you might be late for the breakout. Well, with virtual, click, 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 you're in the next one. And so it's easier for the attendees to attend multiple breakouts, to not be late, and to really be engaged with the information that's being delivered in the breakout. And attending engagement is what we're all about, right? making sure that they stay with you, that they're learning, that you are delivering what you promised so that they get the deliverable that you promised again, so that they'll come back, right? There's also a greater sense of urgency to network and gain value in virtual events, because it's not like, you're going to be, at the bar that night, which, in the advertising world, oh my gosh, we had so many fun nights networking after our advertising functions. For example, they say that the Vegas never sleeps. Well, the advertising crowd would probably differ, because I know when we did a national conference there a number of years ago now, we closed the Bellagio 2 nights in a row. We walked out with a band. So yeah. But anyway, in terms of urgency to network, again, it's all about the value that people gain at the event. And, networking, really, that's often the reason we go to the events, because you can learn from the network that you build at the event. You can learn the information. It's the people you need to find who have the expertise. And that's who I go looking for at my event when I attend events. There's also a better sponsor experience at virtual events. Because people legitimately want to be in their breakout room. Because if I have sponsors, I'm definitely going to give them a chance to, tell their story or sell their product, whatever the case may be. But we know that the people that are in that breakout, they're there they want to learn. So that is, again, a greater engagement between the sponsor and the attendee. And, that's what obviously sponsors are looking for as well. So it's not like they're going to get up and, speak to a room of 100, let's say your event's 100, they might speak to 100. Many people there may not care what they're talking about. So they're floating, they're on their phones, they're not paying attention. But in the virtual world, when people sign up for that breakout, they're there because they want that information. And then the sponsor sees that and then interacts and really has a higher quality lead as a result of that sponsorship. And that's all they care about, is those leads and that ability to sell more product or service. Also, when done correctly, there's more engagement with attendees, as they might have a private landing page to hold information specific to them or for them, like forms or, advance information that's required in advance of the event, homework that might be required in advance or throughout the event. There might be prizes for those who show up, or for those who go to multiple breakout rooms, or who stay engaged throughout the event. Those are all things that can be done with new tools, or that engagement can all be created with new tools that are being developed. And so again, I'm going to take just a little minute here to do an ad for Sage. They've done so much for me. They don't really know it, but they have done so much for me. And they are, again, I've talked about it before on the show, but they are working along with Zoom to create a new platform called Avio. And Avio is a tool or a platform to enhance the attendee engagement once someone has actually registered for an event. So it allows for actual landing page that's customized. It allows for point generating for gaming and interactivity or funification, whatever you want to call it. There's all these really cool benefits of using this platform, because it will talk to Zoom and run the Zoom rooms in a more efficient way than having to work directly with Zoom based on all the limitations that we as independents aren't. I mean, it takes a lot of time to figure out all those caveats in terms of how to get people in and out of their Zoom rooms, or to have 2 people on camera at one time, especially if they're not in the same room. Because another advantage of virtual is you can have speakers and sponsors present from anywhere. So you've reduced your cost. It may not be as pretty as in person, their video, but really, does it matter? I don't think that it matters. Again, my video editor friends are like, oh, it totally matters. But, if a person is presenting and they're not distracting, then there's not something going on in the room that's distracting for the audience, then they can present from anywhere. And that's brilliant, because that means saved money, right? Better engagement. So Yeah, so a couple of other things that are kind of fun about virtual. And again, I brought this up because this topic has, here we are, tomorrow, the first day of spring, right? And people are anxious to get out. And this COVID thing, we basically lost nearly 2 years of our lives. And as planners, we still aren't even sure, do we want to plan an in-person event? Now they're coming, and I've been to a few and scheduled to go to several more here in the coming weeks. And I can't wait to kind of see how those are done, if they're done any differently, or we kind of go back to sort of relying on the old strategies for in-person events. But when it comes to virtual, I got sweatpants on right now, just like the old, newscasters used to do years and years ago. I remember my first day, literally, at a video production company. I won't tell you how many decades ago, but it was a long time ago. And I was a new account executive there, and I didn't have any accounts. My very first day, and I was asked to go in studio because the primary news anchors, we were actually shooting a commercial for the news anchors for Wayne TV, a CBS affiliate in my former town. And I thought I had made it. I was inside. I was like, oh my God, there is the one on the news, and there's the sportscaster, and there's the weather lady, and all that. And then it was so funny because that's where I learned that the sportscasters always wore jeans or shorts with their jackets and ties. Now today they can't, because they have to walk in front of screens usually. Well, actually, now that we've gone back to their own home studios, they're actually probably wearing jeans again, but they're going to go back to the main studios soon. And you can't wear jeans, but again, you can manage your temperature as the attendee. You can wear what you want. You can eat what you want. You don't have to eat rubber chicken. God, I have to eat more rubber chicken at a conference. I've been to so many over the years, or hosted so many, and food is so important, and especially, and now with everybody and their allergies, they're gluten-free or they're peanut-free or whatever the case. God, food is just such a hard part of events. But anyway, I guess that really is sort of the basic overview of virtual versus in-person events, or as I call it, the 80-20 effect. There's so many more things that we could talk about, but I'm trying to limit my time on the show. People are telling me I am giving too much information and the shows are too long, but I just want to make sure that when people listen, they are gaining constructive information that they can use, or you can use, to help build your first or next event success outcome. And with that, we hope that you do want more information about Exit Zero. We can help you get the edge by creating events and program from soup to nuts. We can work with you to make your project or program better. And now, of course, we can help you, we can teach you how to do the event yourself. And there will be additional tools coming for that purpose. Very soon, I will be working on a new series of video modules that will be learn on your own, if you will. And that we'll be rolling that out here in the next couple of months. So I'm getting excited I'm actually working on the content now and building that programming. But maybe Exit Zero isn't for you. No worries at all. But I know at least one person that can benefit from the information that they'll learn, as shared by me, because I've been doing it for 30 plus years, and I've done it the hard way by doing it. So, folks don't have to learn it. They don't have to do it and make the mistakes that I did. I've done the mistakes, and now I'm going to teach about it, right? So if you or someone wants to grow event revenue, membership, sales, or be profitable or productive in some other way, visit businesseventpro.com, because there's definitely more coming down the pike. And we do have another show scheduled next week. I will say I missed a show. I'm involved in a business program, University of Louisville Business Boot Camp. It's a 10-week program. And I got a little bit behind on the show, just because I'm focusing all of my energy to building out the business model the way that I should have done it 20 years ago when Exit Zero was formed on a Monday after being laid off on a Friday. So Again, we hope that you do check out businesseventpro.com to learn lots of other resources there for learning about event planning. Also, check out Applegate's Edge on YouTube if you want to see older shows as we continue producing them moving forward. And again, you know, the shows are available for listening or for viewing, whatever works for you. But I just want to say thanks again for joining today. We so appreciate it. And we hope that you join us for another show and check out the site. But in the meantime, make sure we have your deets so we can let you know what's coming down the pike. And please remember, strategic intention matters. Ciao for now. Thanks so much.